Good evening and welcome to what I think is going to be a very special and rare event. Ji Hyun Park is a defector from North Korea and, as you will hear, has been through absolutely extraordinary experiences. I'm particularly glad that we've got students from 4 schools with their teachers. North and South Korea are not some sort of newly created countries. They are based on an ancient country that dates back at least to the 10th century and it has its own language and alphabet, which was personally created by King Sejong the Great in the 15th century. So it is an ancient country. And it's only recently, in relative terms, that it has been divided into 2. It seems a bit like the equivalent of Poland in Europe, in that it is surrounded by bigger and rather warlike countries, namely, in the case of Korea, Russia, China, and Japan, all bigger and more powerful. In its history, it has been invaded by the Mongols, and most especially the Japanese. And after some unequal treaties, it was formally annexed by Imperial Japan in 1910 and remained in this state until the end of the Second World War. At that time, at the end of the Second World War, there became, in Europe, there arrived what we came to call the Cold War. But in East Asia, the war was anything but cold. There was war in Korea, and later there was war in Vietnam. It had been agreed in theory by the big powers at the end of the Second World War that Korea as a whole would return to being a single independent country. But there was no agreement over what form that government would take. And so, meanwhile, the Soviet Union controlled the North and the United States controlled the South. Then, on the 25th of June, 1950, North Korea, under the leadership of Kim Il-sung, and with the approval of the Soviet leader, Stalin, and the Chinese leader, Mao Zedong, invaded. They attempted to take over the South. In the war that followed, an estimated 3 million people died. The cities were flattened. Incidentally, 60,000 British soldiers were involved in defending the southern part of Korea. It's rather forgotten that they were involved. The Chinese army came to support North Korea, and at the end of this grim and particularly bloody and horrible war, in 1953, the division between North and South Korea was pretty much as it had been at the beginning of the war. So from that time until now, Korea has been cut in half. On the south side, it was initially autocratic, capitalist, but in 1987, by popular demand, South Korea transitioned to being a democracy, continued to be capitalist or have a market economy. Meanwhile, in contrast, in dramatic contrast, the North has been continuously ruled by the Communist Party, which is not known as the Communist Party in North Korea, it's known as the Workers' Party of Korea. The first leader, Kim Il-sung, was a communist since the late 1920s and spent time in both China and the Soviet Union. In fact, he was effectively appointed to the position of being leader of North Korea by Moscow. Under his rule, private enterprises have not been allowed. The economy has been almost fully state-controlled. So these 2 contrasting systems, how have they fared economically? These satellite images are pretty well known, and you can find very similar ones on the internet. There are plenty of them. It's the Korean Peninsula at night in 2000 and again in 2014. And you can see the southern part is lit up. In the first one, pretty lit up. In the second one, extremely illuminated. Whereas that gap between South Korea and the mainland of China, that is North Korea. And it is mostly black because they don't have the electricity and lighting. except for a modest amount in Pyongyang, which is the capital of North Korea. South of the border, the increase in the wealth of the country and the people inside it has been quite impressive. South Korea came to be called one of the tiger economies of East Asia, along with Singapore, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. It has created its own world-beating companies in shipping, cars, and electronics, such as Hyundai, Samsung, and LG Electronics. Meanwhile, in North Korea, which at the beginning was as wealthy or wealthier than the South, growth has been almost non-existent. Farming was collectivized by the communist regime. That is to say, farmers were expropriated and farming was made into a group effort dominated by the state. This had the same result as was seen also in the Soviet Union, Cambodia, Vietnam, and other countries where it was tried. Lower yields, hunger, and in bad years, starvation. The famine in the 1990s was particularly bad, resulting in the deaths of an estimated 500 to 600,000 people out of a population of about 22 million. North Korea actually has 3 times more land used for cereal production than South Korea. The problem is productivity. The yield in kilograms per hectare in North Korea is less than half that in South Korea. The charts of gross national product or gross national income show an extraordinary divergence between the two countries. South Korea has seen growth in GNI or gross national income per capita from $1,000 or less in 1952 to $45,225 in 2020. An extraordinary rise in prosperity. It's gone from being a peasant economy in 1952 to being a modern economy like our own. In fact, it now has the same, more or less the same income per capita as Britain. And if its growth trend continues, it will be richer per capita within the next 5 years. But as you can see, estimates regarding North Korea show that economy has grown very little. The people remain in poverty. One estimate is that in 2016, the gross domestic product per capita was 1,300 or 1,800 in terms of purchasing power parity. Now, if North Korea was a democracy, a political party that presided over such a disastrous economic performance would have been thrown out of power long ago. But North Korea does not allow rival political parties, does not allow a free press, does not allow businesses to start up, it does not allow free speech. Its subjects are subjected to unrelenting propaganda, and they are told things which, in the absence of any other information, they tend to believe. North Korea doesn't allow people to emigrate, and those foreigners who visit are strictly monitored and only shown what the Workers' Party wants them to see. North Korea is the last communist regime to maintain something resembling the kind of socialist state which Marx predicted would turn inevitably into a new kind of wonderful condition which he called communism. Incidentally, you may be aware that China, Vietnam still both call themselves communists, and communist parties still rule those countries. But they are not exactly what Marx had in mind. They have both permitted capitalist enterprise for decades. Both have thousands of private enterprises, big and small. They have stock markets in which foreigners can invest, and they even have billionaires. The prosperity of these countries has dramatically improved, and Cuba also has allowed an increasing amount of private enterprise, although less than China and Vietnam, perhaps. Even in North Korea, since the 1990s, and more so since the latest ruler in 2012, some informal activity has been permitted. Overall, though, North Korea has remained more true to the communist idea than the others. It has held fast to the communist dream. It is for you to judge how that dream is going. Ji Hyun Park was born in 1968. And she made her first escape in 1998. So she lived for quite a long time in North Korea, right until she was about 30. I want to know, first of all, about what life was like in Korea before the famine. So can you tell me, first of all, what kind of accommodation did you have?
I was born in North Hamgyong province and lived in apartment. One apartment is 30 different families lives in there.
So can we just so your family lived in one room, is that right?
Yes, yes. So in North Korea, sometimes apartment is different. So some apartment is even number is 2 rooms and odd number is the 1 rooms. But my house was even number, but we have got only 1 room.
And how many people were living in one room?
5 people.
Did you have a separate kitchen or bedroom?
No, including kitchen and also toilet. Yeah.
There was a toilet and a kitchen, and you
And
all slept. Everything was in one room.
Yes, yeah, everything one room.
Right. So that was your accommodation. And did you have lighting?
Before the famine is the later 1980s, we had the electric system, but that electric is not 24 hours. It's usually nighttime, 3 or 5 hours gone. Yeah, so not every day we can use also daytimes, they also gone. So morning and the evening is some few hours we had light, but now it's totally gone.
Yes. Okay. Did you have a television?
No, we had no television, but in late 1980s, my mom bought the television by Soviet Unions, bought the Soviet Unions. So in North Korea, we had not many houses in televisions. So my apartment is 30 family lives in there, just only 5 or 6 televisions in one apartment.
So what kind of decoration did you have in your apartment?
Decoration is the same. That is all same white. It's all that is repainting the white, and we are not too much decorations ourselves because it's always controlled. It's people, and also apartment. We have got one captain. We call it Immin Banjang. So she is controlled all family members in apartment. So we only is one decoration is white. Is the wall, and on the wall is always Kim Il-sung and the Kim Jong-un pictures in there without the family pictures.
So, I mean, we did see that a little bit in the video, that there was a family place, and what was on the wall? Pictures of the leaders,
Yeah.
and nothing else. No family pictures.
Yes.
And that was required for everybody.
That is, everybody is the same. Or they have got another picture, is maybe special picture who took with Kim Il-sung or Kim Jong-il. Yeah, so they put another areas. Yeah, but we had no special picture.
Right. So when you were young, what did your parents say to you about speaking and talking to other people?
Always parents told us carefully when you speak outside. That is every time we dinner table and the sleeping times, every day say that is it. And don't say about family issues and the family member issues. Yeah, so always respected to them and be careful. That is always parents told.
And why did they say that to you?
Because North Korea is a totally different system is around the world. So is North Korea still said that they are a socialist country. So in North Korea, we have got classification systems. So this system is divided 3 different classifications. One is elite system, and one is middle side, just is normal people, and the third one is hostile people.
So just is the elite, then the normal, and then the hostile.
Yeah,
yes.
But then inside they also divided 51 different systems. So that is really confusing the country. I think many world people can't understand what it means. So in North Korea, everyone is looking for 5 people every day. What do they do? What do they speak out? And then they just reported teachers or their companies or police stations everywhere. So that's why the parents always told to us, because we don't know who is looking me every day, looking at me. Yeah. How
Yes.
many people? Yeah.
So I believe you had a neighbor who was reported. Can you tell us about that?
One day, one of the neighbor, their family all gone, because the reasons that is his husband, he visited his hometown, and then he spoke about that is kind of our politics system was bad, something that. So somebody reported to him is police stations. So he arrested his hometown, and after their families stayed in a room, because that time his oldest son joined the militaries. So he came to the home because his military told to him, you are vacations now. So they bring to him apartment, and after 4 people arrested directly, and we all saw that they just on the truck, and after gone disappeared, all families disappeared.
So the husband made some remarks that were disrespectful of the regime, and his whole family was arrested.
Yes, yeah.
And what happened to them?
We don't know, but it's just disappeared, all gone. They sent to prison. It's a political prison camp.
Okay. Tell me about holidays or breaks that you had. What would you have in the way of holidays?
Oh, we didn't know what means holiday. Yeah, because it's in North Korea, in school is full times, is the Monday to Saturday, and the Sunday also sometimes is a farmer works or something that is cleaning the in school areas. So we never stayed at on weekend times. And also it's a holiday time, it's the same, it's a summer holiday and the winter holiday, but we always stand by in a home, because sometimes they just send to us emergency some works. So after we just run out and work or cleanings, and the winter, they have got lots of snow in North Korea. So we always cleaning snow, something that. So we didn't know much more about the holiday, and also company is the same, because if you wanted to go some areas, you have to permissions first the company, and also you need a travel document first. But that travel document is really hard to people got, so we never.
So if you wanted to go and visit your grandmother in a different area, you had to get a permit. Yeah. To go and see her.
Yeah, and also we need a travel document.
Yeah. So how do people choose their job?
Oh, in North Korea, we don't know that this means choose, because choose is of freedom meanings. Yes, so North Koreans totally don't know that it's choose. So every job is the government give to us. So if my father work in company, and the children is continue to work company, and the farmer same, and the miner, and also they work in minor jobs. So that is, we never choose our jobs, but sometimes we graduated to university, and then but that is not my choice. Example is that I was a teacher, but I graduated to university's math. So then after my town is the government, town is areas, they choose to some schools or some areas. So everything is a government choose our jobs.
Okay, so you became a maths teacher. What were your classes like for the children? Was it just pure maths that you taught, or did you have to say anything else?
I was the student, is the same, or it's North Korea, every subject is they teaching the kind of war or hate Americans, South Koreans. Yeah, so they do this brainwashed about that. So when I was a child, I learned that math is 10 American soldiers here. We killed 5, and how many is left? So this subject is still in 2022 continue. They still is killing the people and telling them is about the war. And also they make is the child movies also same thing. It's kind of worse. Every time we killing Americans or South Koreans. Yes, so that is normal is educations. But I was the math teacher, so I am not teaching to them only math. I also teaching to them about the Kim Il-sung and the Kim Jong-il's brainwashed before started my subject. It's 10 minutes, always 10 minutes.
So you started your classes with 10 minutes of politics,
Yes,
even
yes.
though it was a mathematics class.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so can you tell me one other thing? You had criticism sessions at school. Tell us about that.
It's every Saturday we have got the criticism sessions. So in North Korea, when we started the primary school, and it's the second year, age is the 8, and after we joined this the youth groups, is we wearing the red scarf. So that is started the public life and started the criticism sessions. So every Saturday we have got the criticism sessions, and we write the whole paper. It's a kind of whole paper. So 2/3 is self-criticisms.
Self-criticism.
Yes,
2/3 of your paper is
yes,
self-criticism.
yeah.
Yes.
So first we mentioned that kind of Kim Il-sung's speech or Kim Jong-il's speech. So I said that this week I didn't work this where, or I late to school, I didn't cleaning my classroom or outside. So self-criticism is first, and then I chose the one of the person. So they started the criticism another person. Same thing. This week you late to school, you didn't listen to teacher properly or something. That's everything. So that is the criticism sessions every week. So it is sometimes really difficult to choose people. Yeah, choose people. So in North Korea, before I mentioned that is the classifications. So in school areas, is some father and mother is joined the work party, or some parents didn't join the work party.
Is it the Workers' Party? Yes.
Yeah, yes. So my father was a Workers' Party, so I chose is a different family person every time. So it is also discriminations each others is in North Korea.
Okay, so also, can you just mention about newspapers? How were newspapers treated, and particularly sitting on them?
In North Korea, we have got now is the Rodong Sinmun, and also is Rodong Sinmun, meaning is Korea is a broadcasting newspaper. Yeah, so this newspaper also the political issues in North Korea. So newspaper in every is first page. They just is Kim Il-sung or Kim Jong-il. Now there's a Kim Jong-un's picture. So we never is or put the bin or something like that. So we just carefully reading first, and then after sent to this company or in Minban or some areas. So we never use that as pictures.
So, so if you have a newspaper, you must treat it with respect because it has a picture of the leader.
Yes. Yeah.
And therefore it must be treated with enormous respect. You mustn't throw it away. You mustn't crumple it up. And I think you said when we talked previously, you mustn't sit on it. Is that right?
That is the normal people. If they had no mention the Kim Il-sung or no pictures, and it's usually fathers used that is they smoking. Smoke is smoking. Yeah, it's paper, or we use the toilet paper. Yeah, kind of that. But always. But that is not lot of newspaper. That is really limit inside North Korea.
Okay, so we'll now move on to the famine, which is known in what was known in propaganda as the Arduous March, but actually was a terrible famine in the 1990s. First of all, we didn't cover food properly. How much food did you have? Before the famine, how much food did you get?
It's in North Korea. Everyone is a different amount. So its baby is 100 grams, and the housewife is 300 grams, and the school student is 400 grams.
How many?
400 grams.
400,
yeah.
yes.
And the university is 600 grams, and the workers between 700 or 900 grams, depending the workplaces. So we have got the food numbers. So my house is the every month government gives us twice the rice food delivering. So my house is 4 and 19 every week, every month. So the 4 meaning is every month is number 4.
Number
and,
4,
yes,
yes.
Yeah, and also 19. Yeah, so it's a half month's food and half month's food. So they divided not to give us 1 month's full rice. They always give us is 15 days rice.
15 days rice,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
okay.
So, but they give to us is white rice is only 30%, and the corn rice is 70%.
Yes. Now, so I filled up a glass before. This is one woman's food for 1 day, and that's divided equally between 3 meals. So this is the entire day's food, divided that by 3. And this is, what I have here is all white rice, but what they would have would be 30% white rice, is that right?
Yeah.
And the rest would be what you call corn rice.
Yeah.
Now, as far as I can gather, when you refer to corn rice, it's a kind of maize, not probably the sort that you see in a British shop, but some different variety of maize that has been dried and maybe crushed to make some food. And would this be all dry, or would there be moisture in it?
Not all dried. So if we get 300 grams, and after dry, that's maybe 200 grams or less. But always it divided 3. And also mothers saved 1 or 2 spoons rice because it's a family birthday and the New Year time there. So they saved the rices. So we never enough food before the famine. It's the same, but after famine, government stopped our all foods.
But before you get on to the famine, were you able to supplement this rice and corn with anything else? Could you get any other food?
Oh, no, anything else, no anything. And also not only food, is the salt and the oil and the soy sauce, everything is government to give to us. So every month is the 1 kilogram salt in one family, and just only 500 milliliter oils, one family. So everything is not ours, it's government is give to us. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's move on to the famine then. So what happened to your food ration for a woman of 300 grams a day? What happened to her food ration?
But it's before the famine, we call it in outside is a famine is 1994. But my experience is started in late 1980s. Government is not to give to us a full amount of rice. The example is the female is 300 grams a day. So half month is 4 kilograms, but they not
4 kilograms,
4 kilograms,
yeah.
but they not to give to us only 2 kilograms or something that. So they just only half prices give to us later 1980s. So that time government told us it was America and the South Korea problems because
they argued that the reason for the reduction in your ration was because of problems in America and South Korea.
Yeah. And also they told to us, we started now, we not everyone is have 3 meals. We started 2 meals now. So people started only morning and evening. So we had no meal in lunch meals. So it was really hard, but government still brainwashed to us. In South Korea, many bigger people in outside and they hunger. But our socialism countries, we still had food. So that's why socialism is really envy and great country. So we believed that, but it was the East socialist, that's the later 1980s, many East socialist countries collapsed down. And also, the Soviet Union also had problems. So that's why North Korea financial problems and its relatives, some South socialist countries. So that's why they stopped our every food. And then in 1994, when Kim Il-sung was died, so that time was in North Korea. Everyone is talked about that is just sky, its sun is collapsed down.
When Kim died?
Yes. First time
you
was
were all shocked. Yes.
Yeah. And after we started, this government stopped all food and the
Stopped
people.
all food?
Yes, stopped.
When was that?
That is started early 1994.
94.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did you survive?
So that's why people died of starving, because in North Korea, they never allowed the individual market or shop or some kind of individual business systems. This is a government always controlled every market and every people. So we had no food. So first time is people, they sold out their clothes and the furniture, everything is.
They sold it, but how could they buy anything?
Because it's that time is, in North Korea, they divided in city and also it's a farmer side.
Yes.
So some farmer areas, the people need clothes and the exchange is clothes and the rice or something.
So there was a kind of black market in food. Is that right?
That time was not a black market. Yeah, that time was not. It's not allowed black market.
Not allowed, but was there an illegal exchange of clothes for food in order to try to survive?
Yes, so all people just aware about. They don't know that this is they back to clothes or something that they visited many areas. So if they success is the exchange the rice, that is a success, and many people they can't success in early times.
So I think you said also that if you were near the sea, you could maybe be able to fish or go into the mountains to get some plants or something like that, or grow some of your own food.
Yes, yeah. After that is people they went to the mountains and they just bring the roots. Yeah, roots, yes. Or it's a tree.
The bark, the bark of the trees, yes.
Yeah, and also in North Korea, North Korea still is a seaside areas. So it's some people they catch up the fish and they eat inside, it's belly or something that they bring that. And so everything we just find out and just eat.
So did people started, tell me about what happened at school, because you were teaching in the school at the time. How were the children that came in? How did they behave?
The school is, when I was at school, we always listened to the carefully in teacher and we broke the homework every time. But this time the children didn't bring their homework and they didn't join in school. So myself, a teacher, I am also another brainwashed kind of workers. Is push it to them, is respected your regime or something that. So I was angry to them, why you didn't bring your homework.
So they often did not do their homework?
Yes, because in classroom is, when classroom is very quiet, and I heard that is they just the belly memories because everyone is the hunger and the starving.
So why didn't they do their homework? Was it because they were so weak?
Yes, so weak, and if the children after school, they just run out in every places and found the food. Because
so after class, they would go and try to find food.
Yes, so they have no times. Is that they do is homework.
Right. Did you? I mean, people started dying. Did you see anybody who was dead?
I see many people died in front of me, and especially my uncle.
So your uncle died in front of you?
Oh, yes. So, the people, I saw many dead bodies, but I didn't think about that's why they died or something because I also brainwashed the child and person. So still I believed my regime. Maybe one day they solved our problems. Yeah. But the one day when I saw my uncle, he died of starvation in front of me. I was shocking. Because my uncle was a really loved person, and my parents, they're really busy, and they didn't tell me kind of nighttime stories or something that. But my uncle always did. He told to us is scary kind of stories in nighttime, or laughing to us, playing with us. But he died. So when I saw his body, and he's not kind of human, he's kind of it's animals, just only skin and bones. And after it's many head lices came out his bodies.
So the head lice that
Head
he had
lice and
left
body
his
lice.
body when he died.
Yeah, because his body is not warm, it's cold. So it's people can't imagine what this is, the starving person is died. Yes, so it was horrible, and it's still my nightmares came to me.
Yes. What was the attitude at that time of people to defecting? What did people say about defecting?
Is people defecting, the hope that is, that they bring only two hope. One is could be die. One is could be they find one is it the rubber. One is the power rise. They just only talked about that. They're not big dreams. I want to survive and then reach. They never do that. I want to find some kind of one corn or just kind of one rice.
But was the idea of leaving the country, was that approved of or disapproved of?
Disapproved, because in North Korea still say that is somebody who escaped their countries, that is anti-socialism person. So they killed, and also they sent to us a political prison camp. But that times people, they have no choice, because in North and China, so now is they have got made there's a lot of fences, but it's until the later 2010 is they not made fence, so only riverside. That's a riverside is not too far. It's
Yes,
only 2 meters or something like that. So people just cross the border and went to China, but China was totally different where when we learned about the North Korea.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a moment. First of all, you, of course, did defect. And what led to your defection, if I can just summarize a little bit, was that your brother was deserted the army, or was basically there was loyalty money which you were meant to pay, which soldiers were meant to pay. Everybody was meant to pay loyalty money, which is kind of pretend voluntary tax, but really was involuntary. And if his army group failed to pay it, and so they were in trouble. And so he deserted, he escaped and came to you, but there were posters up with his face because he was a wanted man, and he hid. And then they found him and arrested him, they beat him up, and then they brought him to your room. What happened when they brought him to your room?
It's before I mentioned the loyalty money. So this loyalty money is not only army paid loyalty money. This is whole people who joined. It started the school, and the whole people every year we paid loyalty money to government. So in 1998 we started all those march and all economic.
The arduous march.
Arduous
march. The famine.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's all economic is go down, and is the people earn the money is really hard. So my brother joined this group, is a kind of business. So they also earn the money and pay the loyalty money to government. But one day they didn't success. So North Korea didn't pay the loyalty money. That is political issues. So all group members is treated in areas. So they just run out.
They ran away. Yeah, they all ran away.
Yeah,
yes.
Because if they're still in there, they send to political prison, or they maybe executions.
Maybe they ran away because otherwise there'd be political prison or executed. Yeah. So, but if I can just move on to when he was brought to your apartment, what happened when they brought him to your apartment?
So before my brother came to home, but he didn't stay at home, so he stayed outside.
Yeah, yeah.
But after soldiers, they find out my brother, and they already beaten to him, and after came to my house, and they continued beaten to him. So they came to later 12 noon.
12 noon or 12 at midnight?
Midnight, 12 midnight.
Yes.
And they, after close, they finish it early 5 a.m.
So they went on beating him in front of you until 5
yes,
p.m. For 5 hours they beat him.
So after he closed his eyes, all is swollen and the blood came out everywhere. So me and my father watched that. So after my father was shocking, shocking, because he was a Workers' Party member. And
Your father was a Workers' Party member, so he was believed in the whole thing.
Yes, he believed the whole thing. I still remember that is, when my father wearing his party card in his belly. So it's in North Korea, they have got the party card and also red scarf. It's covered red scarf. So every month he paid his Workers' Party the money, something
subscription. Yes.
So he is wearing this party his belly. So he was really proud, and also after he is really secret places, he put his party his membership cards. So he was really a faithful life, and he believed, but his brother died of starvations, and also his son is the same thing, is beating something that. So my father last time was illness, that is, and he didn't move, and his condition was really bad. So my father told me that you had to leave this country and save your younger brother.
So your father, who was a committed communist, told you that you should leave, despite his beliefs, and he did that basically to save your brother, and knowing that when you left, if you left, that he would be in trouble.
Yes, he everything is knew that, but he first think about that as his children's future. So that's why. So first time when he spoke to me, leave this country, I was shocking because my father was a Workers' Party member, and he told to us every time, be careful, respected your Kim families. But these times he told us leave this country.
Your brother was arrested, but he managed to summarize this. He managed to escape again and come back to you and be nearby, hiding. And then, but your father had said that you must leave. The house was being watched, but you secretly gave some money to your brother. And then on the 16th of February, 1998, it was Kim Jong-il's birthday, so the soldiers left the house because of the special occasion. And on the 18th of February, 1998, you and your brother left the house. They left the area separately in order to cross the border. Security was a bit on the weak side at that time because the famine had wreaked havoc with organizations. And so they went separately, and they managed to meet on the 21st of February. Now, can you just move on to how did you cross the border with China?
Yeah, it's when I met my younger brother in Onsong, it's first places near the Chinese border. So me and that time was in February and was really cold winter. So riverside is already frozen. So me and my younger brother is at midnight 2 a.m. We crossed the riverside. So when we crossed the half areas, and then North Korean soldiers shouted to us and gunfire to us. So my leg was frozen and I couldn't move, but my younger brother is holding my hand. Sister, wake up, we have to run. So then we run after half cross. So before I crossed this border is 18. First time left my home 18. So that time is my illness father alone in cold dining room. So I didn't say goodbye to my father because I didn't know that journey was my last to see my father. But I had to leave this home because it was my father's last wish to save my younger brother. So I still don't know when my father passed away and where he's buried.
So you were able to cross because the river, because it was frozen. Is that right?
Yes.
So you crossed the river. What happened next? Where did you go?
So when we crossed the border areas, and also in China and North Korea, it's every house they live in is the river side. So we found that is one house they write on. So we knocked the door. But the first time I didn't think about that is a Chinese language. Only I thought about is Korean. So we knocked the door, but honestly, it was a Korean person that lives in there. So he told me that I heard that is a gunfire. So I knew that is somebody must cross this border. So that's why he just is right on. And when I came to this house and he gave to us kind of warm meals, there's white rice and eggs and pork. So it was really special for me because in North Korea, white rice is meaning we only eat Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il's birthday, and also in my birthday, just only one meal. But this person, we are not a special person, yeah. But this person gave to us that is special meals, eggs also too, and so it was really nice the first time when I saw the Chinese man. So we quickly eat everything, and then this person told me that I think this already is a campfire is in the north side, so it's early morning, maybe Chinese police came to here because somebody already crossed the border. So this is not it's a safe places. So you had to move some area. But I didn't know anything that I don't know the information, everything. So he said that I had one of the friend in different city. So I contacted to him. So I believed to him because he gave to us nice meals. But his friend was a human traffickers.
So he said, I've got a friend who can help you. And in fact, the friend was a human trafficker. So what happened when you went to the human trafficker?
So when he contacted his friend, and then 1 hour after he came to us and we moved to his house. And after he said that he told to us a really scary thing, everything, because it's the China always arrested the North Korean people.
Arrested them.
Yes. And also sent back to North Korea. But these people kind of cow, not is a human, is kind of animal because it's some kind of steers in our nose, and then they bring to us kind of animals. It was really scared.
So he was telling you that the Chinese authorities would treat you brutally.
Yes. So he said that you had to marry some Chinese men. And
so he told you had to marry. So were you effectively sold to a Chinese man?
Yeah, but the first time I denied it because I have with my younger brother, I have to save to him because it was my father's last wish. So I told to him, I don't marry the Chinese man, and you give me any jobs, it's toilet cleaning, kitchen cleaning, I don't mind if I saved my younger brother. After he really angry and yellow face to me in front of me, and he said that if you don't marry the Chinese man, I want to contact the Chinese police and send back to North Korea. So it was scared me. So after I promised, if I saved my younger brother, I did everything. But Chinese is but they just sold out me, and this is a person who is bought me, and he said that I bought only you, not your brother.
So when you were bought by this Chinese man, he didn't want your brother,
Yeah.
and so what happened to your brother?
So after my brother told me that, sister, you had to go, you had to survive. So it's also my brother's last word. And then he also sent back to North Korea. So I still don't know that he's survived or not.
So you learned that he had been sent back to North Korea. What would you expect to have happened to him?
Now it's past 20 years. So somebody told me that he could be died, but I never see his died of body. So I still wait to my younger brother.
You still hope that he might be
Yes.
alive?
Yeah.
Yes. So did you find out how much you had been sold for?
I was sold to 5,000 yuan, it's a Chinese money. So that is maybe 600 pounds.
600 pounds, that's a
Yeah,
lot.
that I think maybe now is less because that is maybe 10 years ago is a kind of that. So this time is maybe less.
And what was it? Were you actually legally married to this man, or was it just a word that married? Were you legally married to him?
No, that is illegal.
So you
yeah.
weren't really a
Yeah.
wife. You were just. How did he treat you? What did you have to do?
Oh, so this man bought me, and when I arrived at his house, and then his mother told me that I borrowed a lot of money and then bought you. So you have to pay this money and you have to work outside. So first time I didn't understand what mean that, because it's tropickers told me that you married this man, but how his mother told me that I bought you. So that was confusing. But next morning is early morning, is his mother is wake up, and you had to walk. So I always walk early morning and until the dark days, because this is a farmer areas. So exchange work in another house work. But they didn't pay to me. They paid his families, and also they not allowed me their family members. So we all North Korean females kind of sex slavery and
Sex slavery.
yes, and also day workers.
So you worked very hard and you were effectively his sex slave.
Yes, yeah.
And what was he like as a person?
Personal life was not same as not human's life in North Korea and in China.
But what was the personality of the man who you were with?
He is a gambling addict and alcohol addict. So that's why
gambling and alcohol.
Yes. So that's why his family members, they bought me. So if they talked about that is if he had a wife, maybe changed his life, but that is never changed. Yeah, never changed.
Yeah, yes. So then you became pregnant.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I was pregnant because they have no this kind of medicines or condoms or something that they never use that. So when I found out that I was pregnant, and then I really hate myself, because my life is a slavery life. And then now I have a child, so maybe this child is born in China, same as my life is the same as slavery. But after I changed my mind, this child is my last family. So this child gave me hope and dreams. So I kept this child, but China is the communism country and North Korea is a socialist country, two countries, similar systems. So China also never allowed this child because I was born in North Korea. So it's a China system is a similar North Korea, is town is up is areas. They have got also is captain, female captains. So one day this female captain came to me and she told me that I just miscarriage this child.
She told you must abort it.
Yes, because our government never accepted this child. So I denied it to her.
You denied that you were pregnant?
Yeah.
You pretended you were not pregnant?
No, she already know that it's because it's
Oh, she knew that?
Yeah, but I told
You
her,
refused to have an abortion?
No, I kept this child. I needed this child. And then after I always wearing the big clothes because nobody find out.
So people would not notice that you were pregnant?
Yeah. So I continued to walk until when my child born. Because
where was your child born?
My child was born in March.
Where?
It's in China. It's a small.
I know, but in a room, in a hospital, or what?
No hospital. It's my child born in the small. It's a room. It's a small room. That was before. Is one of the company. They have got the security rooms. This small, just only 1 square meter room. But I was born in my child was born in there, and I never went to the hospital because I had no kind of identifications. So hospital never allowed to me, and nobody helped me. My first child delivery because
nobody helped you deliver it.
Yes, and there is this man's mother also never helped me. So it was my first child. So I didn't know how did I, and I was really scared. And my alone is 10 hours is really pain myself.
Your labor lasted 10 hours.
Yes. So it's finally one old lady came to me and he just helped me finally. So yeah.
After 5 years in living like this, somebody reported you to the authorities and the police, and at midnight they came to your place where you lived, and you were arrested and sent to prison in China. What was it like when you went into that prison?
In China.
In China,
yes.
Yes.
China system is still somebody is find the North Korean refugees, and then Chinese government paid money to them. So that system is still happen.
So the people who betrayed you were paid.
They
were given a kind of bonus for having betrayed you.
Yes. So that's why many Chinese people they find out that it's North Korean refugees because that's money is they better than their monthly salaries.
Right.
So that's why they reported to me, and it's nighttime. It's 10 Chinese authorities came to my house, and they
10 officers or whatever came to your house to arrest you.
Yes.
But when you got to the prison, what happened to you in the prison?
So I went to the China prison in 2 areas. So they made new buildings that this prison is only in North Korean refugees. So when I came to the prison, and after the prison guard told me that you just off your all clothes, but that is not lady, is the guide, is man. So first time I just denied it. Why? So they just beat me and off clothes. So when we all clothes off, and after they researched our head and breast and also women's leggings, they put their 2 hands because they find out that it's money or something that's. So it was really shame, and I am human, but they never think about that we are human. So this is not only once time; it's every day. Man is a prison guide came to the room and they turn off your clothes, and also it's kind of violations. So some females they have is period, but blood is come out in blood, and they just laughing to us. Yeah, but that time we never talked about that. It is human discrimination and the violations, because we only talked about that is we are North Korean.
So you had intimate body search by male prison officers. Okay, so you then were sent to North Korea, where you went to another prison. You went into a room that was a cell that was very dark and quiet. What happened as you entered that prison cell?
And went to the North Korea, and also North Korea is the same as body searching. That is not female officers, it's male officers. The same as is the China. And the first we stayed in security prison. So we call it that is 보위부. That is the invisible. Is the police.
The secret police.
Yes, yes. So
보위부.
yeah. So we went to the office, and they had interview to us first because they need our hometown or something that. But mostly they ask to us 3 questions. So first question is, do you visit the church in China?
Visit a church?
Yes, yeah. And the second, do you meet the South Koreans?
Right.
Yeah, and the third one is somebody, their journey was South Korea, but after failed, and then they sent back to North Korea.
So they wanted to know whether you had been to a church, because why would they ask about whether you had been to church?
Because it's the North Korea is a Juche ideology country. So Juche meaning is North Korea religion is Kim families. So they not allowed any religions to us, and we are not believed any religions.
So you would be more in trouble if you had been if you said you had been to a church.
Yes, yeah, church and met South Koreans. Because,
also more in trouble if you had been to South Korea.
Yes, yeah, it's true. Is related. So if 3 things is is maybe I visited the church, or I met the South Koreans, or they failed the journey to South Korea, they all sent to prison camp.
Okay, so now I'm going to skip forward a bit, but when you went into a cell there, you saw it was dark and quiet, and as I understand it, you stepped in and then you found that you hit a body, because in fact the room was full of people. It was just dark, and it was completely full of people where there was nowhere to go really without somebody inconveniencing or hitting somebody.
Yeah, because first we sent the security prison, and the first person we just went to the left room first, body searching or something that. After we moved to the right rooms, but it was completely dark, and we didn't know that is because inside really quiet. So when we first put in there, and after is somebody shouting. So it was shocking because it's completely dark and we didn't see. And it was whole, not a room, it's a whole area. But after we just carefully saw that whole people, they sat down in whole areas, and the room is only 3 rooms in there. And every is full people in there. So everyone can't move and the dark area.
And so there was one toilet, is that right?
Yes, yes. So room is similar to this one. So in front of 3 different rooms, and they kind of is a fence in here. So people live, the hall is kind of this side hall, and in front only 1 toilet, and covered only 50 centimeters. So men and the female use the same toilet. So when you use the toilet, and the whole people just watch you, what do they do? Yes.
Right. And then from there, you were sent to a labor camp. You were put in a group of 40 women doing farm work. You were not able to wash. You had head lice. You had body lice. You were there for 3 months or so. And then your leg became swollen and you couldn't walk. It sounds like it was a bit like a form of gangrene, maybe possibly, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but possibly wet gangrene. It was oozing pus, it was swollen, and it was difficult for you to walk. You had a high temperature, as much as 39 degrees. Please correct me if I say anything that is incorrect. And so you had this terrible leg, and then you were, because of this, you were sent to a local prison, put in a basement with no light in a small room with 2 other women. One of the women was shouting a lot, but no one heard because you were underground. You wanted air, and you were treated very badly at this time. But then, and we're now in about 2004, you came to be at least let out into the open air. How did you come to be let out?
They called my younger uncle, and they signed permissions. We never again escaped North Korea. So they just signed the police stations, my uncle. And after I realized this is a local prison. But my uncle told me that I never see you again. And he just directly leave me. So I understood because North Korea is the systems. Yeah. So it's somebody's family member who escaped North Korea. It's whole relatives they treated and they bad life in country. So my uncle is really hate me, and also I left my illness father alone in cold room. So he was really angry to me. So I understood everything. So he abandoned me in street.
So your uncle signed papers so you were let out, but then immediately abandoned you.
Yes.
And didn't want anything to do with you. And if he had things to do with you, would that have affected his family?
If they allowed me in their home, and maybe after I defected again, so family whole kind of treated. So that's why he never trouble again is about me. So
it would have been damaging to his family.
Yes. So he just abandoned me.
Yes. Okay. So it was for you. You were outside the prison, but we're still with this terrible leg, and it was a terrible time for you. For about 3 months, you were outside the prison, and then traffickers came to you. Tell us about what happened with the trafficker.
So first time in 1998, we didn't know that the trafficker or brokers inside North Korea, but 2004, the system is the same, but it's many traffickers and brokers in North Korea and the China areas, because they selling the women and girl. It was a really popular business in North and South Korea. It's a China areas. So this broker came to me, and he just asked me, do you want to go to China first, something like that. So first time I didn't agree to him because I didn't believe to him if he's kind of a spy or something like that. But then my leg was a little bit recovery, and then I always talked about my son because it's my son alone in China, and I stayed in the labor camp. So every time I only talked about my son. I want to reunite my son again, and I never lost my family again. So that was my really strength. And
that was your motivation,
yes,
to get your son back.
Yeah.
So in short, you got a traffic. Eventually you agreed to go for the trafficker. You agreed to be trafficked, to be effectively to be sold again, in order to have the chance of seeing your son. And so you were taken across the border, walking with this terrible leg that was still in a terrible condition. You successfully got across the border. Then you had to take a taxi. I'm going to summarize this story because we really are running out of time. You had to get across the border, and you had to go to a taxi. And the taxi driver was suspicious of you and was thinking about betraying you and reporting you as more illegal immigrants. And you then managed to tell, because you spoke Chinese then, because of your previous experience in China, you were able to tell the taxi driver that in fact the trafficker was your husband, and that the other girl in the car was your sister, and another one was your father. You made up a whole lot of excuses and lies in order to say that we were going to hospital. And when you showed him your leg, your probably gangrenous leg, he thought, oh my God, yes, he really is going to hospital. I mean, that leg is terrible. So you managed to not be reported. The trafficker managed to sell the other people he had trafficked. And then, but for you, he realized, initially he was angry, saying, why did you talk to this taxi driver? And then he found, when he explained to him, he realized that you had saved all their lives. You had stopped them all being deported back to North Korea. You had stopped them, some of them perhaps being executed. And so he was actually then very grateful to you. And so he said, okay, you can contact your son. So you contacted your son, you rang him up, and at first he was, put the phone down, but eventually you told him, I'm your mother, I'm here. And then you kidnapped him. You knew where he would be, and you went and you got hold of him and you left. You got hold of your son, and then you decided that the answer was to emigrate to Mongolia. And so, which may seem a strange decision, but anyway, we must pass on from that. You decided to emigrate to Mongolia.
No immigrate to Mongolia, because we wanted to go South Korea. So before we went to Shenyang and Qingdao and also in Beijing, but all our journey was failed because we had no passport and it's a real identifications. Because in front of the embassy is a Chinese police in there, and they checked our passport or identifications, but we had no, it's kind of,
so you couldn't get to the South Korean embassy to try and get asylum, yes.
So, and then we met 9 North Korean refugees in front of the South Korean embassy in Beijing. So we just all said, one of the South Korea embassy in Mongolia, that is Ulaanbaatar. So we didn't know the where is the Ulaanbaatar.
Okay, so they were attempting to get to the South Korean embassy in Mongolia. And so you managed to get to the border, and you crossed the border, but then there were guards, and you thought you were going to be captured. You were going quite slowly. And then a man came who you'd met before, came and picked up your son, carried him on his back, and took you by the hand and helped you get across to Mongolia. That man is now her husband. Anyway, he is, so they got into Mongolia. She hadn't realized that Mongolia was a desert, an extremely cold desert. And so after 3 days in Mongolia, you decided to go back to China.
Yeah. Because we couldn't die in this desert. Nobody knows that. And that my son was hungry. So why I survived in prison? Because I needed this responsibility with my child future. So he couldn't die in this Mongolia. So we came back to China again.
Okay, so then you spent 2 years in Beijing, or Peking as it used to be called, and you were working as a dishwashing in restaurants to make some money. And then you met an American pastor who put you in touch with the United Nations, who arranged for you to then finally become an asylum seeker. And they asked you, which country would you like to go to? And you chose England. Why did you choose England?
Because I first time heard the United Nations. So I didn't know what is the United Nations, what do they do? Yeah. So I thought that they also similar brokers. So I knew that is many broker is some brokers they successfully arrived in South Korea, but some brokers didn't. And our journey is we didn't know that is a success or unsuccess. So that time is not only me. We have family. So that is a trouble whole families. So we didn't choose South Korea and America. So we chose England because England is, when I lived in North Korea, we learned that it's a little bit England is the 18th centuries, and also ladies and gentlemen, is man is wearing the hat and woman is wearing the dress. So yeah, so it was kind of different information, but I thought that this little information maybe changed my life. Yeah, so I chose England, but when I came to England, I applied my asylum seeker, and then some people told me that welcome to United Kingdom, and somebody told me that welcome to Britain. So I was confusing because I choose England, but what is the United Kingdom or Britain? So maybe this broker land me different areas.
So, okay, so your first 10 years in Britain or England were quite tough in that you didn't speak the language well. You again worked as a dishwasher in Manchester, and now life has settled down for you. And obviously you know England well, you know North Korea well. How do you look back on North Korea, or how do you look at England? What do you think of England? You know, now you've lived here.
England is heaven and North Korea is hell. It's never compared to countries. Life was totally different in here. You know that in North Korea, we didn't know family meanings or happiness meanings. But in the UK, I found out that what is family and what is happiness. It's not political happiness, personal happiness. Because one day we sat down our dinner table and my children speak about their school life and they smile face in front of me. So when I saw the children's smile face, I just thought here, cry, because it is happiness. It is heaven country, yes. So I really love this country. Yeah.
I'd like to thank you for coming, and I want above all to thank Ji Hyun Park for coming here and freely giving of her time to tell her experience. Thank you very much.